I think I don't want you to get stuck on, it's not 100%. It's not going to be 100%. Would I like it to be 100%? Would I like every resident? If I had a sidewalk on my side of Park Street, believe me, I would be shoveling it, but I don't have a sidewalk on my Park Street. It's baby steps, and I would like to have every resident do their sidewalk. I mean, residents need to get their sidewalk plowed right up. The town snow plow for they don't go back and reshovel them to make it better. They just leave it where the town did. So that's another issue too, is just because you snow plowed it once doesn't mean, just
Yeah, if
snow
you
plow
wanna-
it once and you're done.
Snow plowing doesn't get it down to bare ground necessarily.
Right, so there's a whole bunch of different issues, but, we're not gonna do 100%, but it's certainly better this year than it's ever been on being able to access anything in town, walking wise. So I really seen an improvement. I know, 100%, absolutely not. Would I like to see it 100%? Yeah, but it's slow. And it's difficult and it's hard, and I was shoveling out that heavy cement this weekend, so I know how hard it is, but, I would like to continue the way you're doing, and I appreciate your effort.
I'd like to move on. I thank everybody. I think we've got your input, and we are going to look into this further and discussing it at our next meeting, which is February 1st. You're welcome to, February 1st is our next board meeting. Next item on our agenda is old and new business. Mr. O'Leary.
I don't have anything other than we created a committee that we should worry on the ALS, just wondering what the status is and how we're doing and where we're at.
I think, Sean, you want to?
We've had, I would say, very productive meetings. We've had our most recent last Thursday evening, in which a gentleman who runs a private ambulance service came in, pointed out a couple of things to us that we could possibly make changes of right now. One, most importantly, would be concerning our billing rates. He expressed to us that he thought our billing rates, as they currently stand, are very low. I think we'll probably take some action at our next full board meeting to increase those rates. We're compiling, I credit Fire Department Mike Tanyan bringing in 3 very well qualified and experienced people to discuss both privatizing the ambulance service as well as bringing in in-house advanced life support within our own fire department. So the information we've gathered so far has been very, very helpful to us and to our committee as we've been marching forward. In terms of being able to present something to this board, we're not there yet, but we continue to make progress, and I see us possibly making a recommendation within the next month or two, or at least having a presentation to this board within the next month or two.
Steve, from my perspective, we've got a substantial amount of information across the board, and I really commend the fire department for proactively and actually coming up and identifying people that we would have never found with this wide diversity of things. They had someone from Linfield, the Linfield system, doesn't necessarily apply to North Reading, but, to learn how they operated, it was, I thought, very interesting.
Right.
I think what we need to do is we have to have a form of a work session to, take all of this information and put it all together into a form that can be presented, and we can take a look at the various options. Another key part of this is, at least in my opinion, in terms of, Sean has mentioned increasing the rates, which, clearly, based on what we've learned, is something we should take immediate action on. The 2 is that I believe the fire chief had mentioned to us previously that there was the opportunity to bring in some funds to bring on some additional staff, personnel. And if we know that that, in fact, is something we can make happen, then I think we construct a plan that perhaps would allow us to make the adjustment to ALS and, in the end, bring our revenues up to the point, at least we're funding the additional resources when the grants run out. Now, he was talking 5-year grants, I think.
Right.
If I recall. So the idea is now we've got some information, can we construct a plan? That's what really needs to be worked on next. So I'm optimistic. It isn't going to happen by the end of January.
No, is there at some point where you can share some of this information with the other members of the board as you're going along? I'm interested in being brought up to speed before the committee's ready to.
Yeah, sure.
Point it, because
I think we're able
I
to
think
do that.
in order for
I
me
think
to help
Sean and I
formulate
and
my
Greg-
opinions, I don't want it all dropped in my lap all at once. I'd like to be involved somewhere along the process so that if there's some questions
All right,
I have,
well,
they could be.
as board members on the committee, I think we can pull together some kind of a presentation, certainly to kind of go over.
And again, I don't need a presentation in this forum, but, if you have some information you can forward to me for me to peruse and look at, I'm sure the other members.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I think we're able to put that together.
In fact, I have pieces of it floating around here.
If you want to compile a file,
Yeah.
I'd like to go through it.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
I have some
Yeah, we can
information
do
that,
that.
over the years that I have too.
If it's too much at one time.
It's
the
been a
digestive
good
process.
working group.
There was no doubt in my mind that it would be a good working group and relationship once it got formed. Some reluctance on parties perhaps to get involved initially, but the board's initiative
I
to
think,
do it is good.
I haven't sensed any of that.
No, I think it's a good working group, and like I said, I commend the fire department, especially Mike Tanya, and bringing in the speakers that he's brought in. It's educated me in terms of how ALS operates, both on the private side and within the public sector. So,
Exactly what I anticipated would happen. Just trying to get it to happen, which is good.
Mr. Ewan?
Just to reiterate what I had mentioned before with regard to the snow removal, the businesses really have stepped forward, and it should be acknowledged that they're making a really good effort to make sure that they comply with the law, and I want to thank them very much, and I think the community, and especially those people who use it, are beginning to really appreciate it, and you'll see that reflected in when they come into your establishment. So, thank you very much, and that's all I have to say.
Mr. Pena?
No, I have nothing tonight, Mr. Chair.
I don't have anything this evening on.
And I don't either.
We have exec? We do. Okay.
Get their census forms in.
Yes, they just came out.
Collective
Yeah,
bargaining
make sure
and
they get
Turn
it,
mine
so
in.
they active on the,
Turn
voting
mine
list
in
and-
today.
Turn mine in today, too. I guess we've had a pretty good turnout in our party today, too, so congratulations to everybody that's participated in this special election.
You don't want to see what his BlackBerry said.
Yeah, no, I know, yeah.
I wanted to hand it to you, but
And I wait assessment as to how the flow of things went in such reasons, Chair.
yeah.
I talked to other staff this morning. See, I think there were ample conversations. The issue of flow is going to be worked on a little bit. Jury's out. I mean, I think that, you know how they...
This is a good test, because first of all, we had a high turnout.
Yeah,
and
it would be...
And weather conditions were not ideal, so it can't get much worse.
Right.
Well, I don't think the weather had
The weather didn't
anything to
affect it.
do
Well, it did,
with
early,
flow.
I voted at 7
Turnout
o'clock
was
this
there.
morning, and there was some icy sections in the parking lot, so people were parking and walking into the polling place, there was some distance, people were walking in, again, accumulated
Yeah,
ice
but-
and,
but they got there.
oh, I know they got there.
Everybody was
I,
resourceful and, Mr. Vino.
I was going to save it because I'm sure we're going to have a discussion on this when we hear from Mrs. Stats.
Right.
The one thing I did hear, physically heard myself this morning at the Hillview, there were 4 seniors there having breakfast, and I overheard them say they could not get in, so they continued up the Hillview and they weren't going back. because the traffic was so bad trying to get in. Whatever time they were there, I can't tell you exactly what time they were there. If that's happened, it's a shame that has happened.
You know, Joe, it was interesting because I was standing out there for a good portion of the day, and there were a lot of seniors in their cars as well, driving through.
Oh, I'm
and
sure there was.
waving, and, you know, so,
Sure there was.
it's a personal decision whether someone's willing to do something like that. And I do believe the weather had an impact, because it just wasn't the best
For
of
those people
conditions to
standing
go through.
outside, yes.
Well, it didn't bother me standing outside,
It's
but.
just what you
Weather
use. I
doesn't
mean,
impact
it's
it all.
interesting when you see in other countries that, right into the democratic process where they'll wait for hours and hours and hours in line to vote, and, you know, people get impatient when they have to wait, you know,
Right.
3 or 4 minutes in order to access the parking lot.
But if I may, to say the weather had an impact because it was bad, that means on a good day, you won't be able to get near that building.
No.
Because everyone will be out.
Generally
No.
speaking, you're not gonna get the turnout that we had today. And I
Right,
think it
that's
was
right.
60,
I think-
70%.
That's right.
You're gonna see it's not gonna work.
No.
60,
If we
70%.
get by today and the turnout's 60-70%, I'm never gonna worry about it. There's some little improvements
It's
that
not
can be
fair to
made.
people who are
Right.
driving away because they can't get in there.
All right, let's move on. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of,
Well,
Collective
Mr. Chairman,
bargaining.
for collective bargaining and litigation strategy, and further, the Board of Selectmen will return to open session thereafter for sole purpose of adjournment.
motion by Mr. Yule, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Yule.
Aye.
Mr. Vino.
Aye.
Mr. Delaney, and the chair votes aye. Thank you, Bob.